All right, I think we are recording. Hi, I'm Alexandra, one of the group fitness instructors. Thanks for joining or watching this. So today the topic for the webinar is dance, Pilates, and stress relief. A lot of fun topics. So we'll start with Pilates, kind of go into the basics of that, and then kind of connect that to the mindfulness and body awareness component that sometimes when you're following in a class, you're not always educated on or aware of, or that you think about. So that'll definitely kind of tie into the stress relief part. And then dance, multiple ways of dance, not just one. I'm kind of gonna make that connection too, and how that can apply to you, whether you are a dancer, you're not a dancer, or you, do dance fitness. You're just kind of touching on a lot of areas in dance and how Pilates is connected. All right, so just get right into it. So, definition of Pilates, very basic definition. It's a total body conditioning exercise method combining flexibility and strength from both Eastern and Western cultures. The purpose is to develop mind, I think I tried to say the two words at once, mind and body uniformity, provide balance, flexibility, and strength, improve posture, and to focus on the powerhouse. And we'll talk more about the powerhouse throughout the presentation, but the powerhouse is basically your navel down. So your lower body, hips, quads, glutes, that's your powerhouse. And then, yeah, like I said, we'll go into it more in depth later. The founder was Joseph Pilates in the 1920s. It's definitely developed so many years in the making. There's a lot of different types of Pilates. The Pilates that we teach at GW Campus Rec and that I'm referring to in this webinar is mat Pilates. There's a lot of different Pilates reformer and other programs out there that kind of have variations, but we're talking strictly mat Pilates. All right, so some benefits to Pilates. It restores, which you probably, if you've taken Pilates, you're familiar with, but still good to refresh. So it restores natural balance, improves flexibility, improves posture, I said that before. Physical and mental strength increases. The body becomes toned and sleek, or people like to say mean and lean. One can move more gracefully and easily, and that's not just like in a class or if you're exercising really like throughout your life. If you're lifting something, if you're moving from one place to another, if you're getting off the floor, things like that. And also one can move more quickly and perform more tasks. Kind of like I said, getting up the floor more efficiently, faster, without pain or discomfort. It also helps prevent bone deterioration, stimulates the circulatory system, and assisting in oxygenating blood, aiding in lymphatic drainage, aiding in releasing endorphins, which is great, which you release endorphins when you exercise. So people say exercise makes you happy because you're releasing endorphins. Yes, it also boosts your immune system. And for pre and postnatal women, it's a great method of exercise in terms of breathing, body concentration, recovering body shape for post natal period, and then toning after pregnancy. Let's see, reduces stress, fatigue, discomfort, and pain, which I'll go into more detail of how that actually happens and why. Helps to get a good night's sleep and improves any physical activity or enjoyment that you might have. So kind of like in dance, really anything physical, it's going to help you improve your ability to enjoy the movement. So who is it for? It's for anybody, athletes, fitness and training instructors, artists, dancers, performers, really anybody. But I also think the key here is that people who suffer from chronic pain and joint stress, Pilates can be a great method of exercise, method of strengthening joints, muscles, core, and again, overall body composition. Yes, without being too high impact, that's the key. So, strength training can be great for anybody, for all of us, but anyone who's going to has chronic pain and joint stress, things like cycling and running and strength training might not be in the cards for that specific condition and for that specific person. Yeah. Senior citizens also, again, it kind of goes back to like it's an efficient way of exercising and connecting to your body without just, strength training in your traditional way of building muscle. And I mentioned this before, pregnant women, pre and postnatal. Anyone wishing to prevent osteoporosis, that's really important. So that's, again, it all goes back to the improving joint stress and bone density, which again, of course, later on, we might not see it in our 20s, but later on, it's definitely a prominent thing to look for in an exercise program or format, whatever it might be. Those who suffer from stress and back pain. Yes, definitely. We're going to talk about neutral spine, spine to navel, really important, and of course, posture. And then overweight people. Any exercise can help, but again, there's a little bit more of a mind-body connection there. So, kind of getting yourself into a fitness regime, but also having your mental health and your body, your mind and your body connected with that too, to make some lifestyle changes, it has pretty promising results for a lot of people who may be overweight. Yes, but also everybody, not just those groups. Like if you didn't fall into that group, that's okay. Like everyone can benefit from Pilates. So now I went through some principles. And this is a lot of talking, but we will do some demonstration too. So concentration is one of the main principles, and it's all about focusing on the movements as you're performing them, connecting mind and body, being present with your mind, noticing how your body feels when you focus your mind on a specific area. The central nervous system will become accustomed to choosing the right combination of muscles to perform each exercise. So concentration, if you think of like how a Pilates class is usually run, if there is music, it's very light music, it's relaxing, it's kind of similar to yoga music, meditative, low-key, very soothing. So it's not supposed to be something that's kind of in your head that you're thinking about. So if you're cycling, if you're doing dance fitness or any dance, or even HIIT, if you're really relying on a motivator, whether that's the music, you're pedaling to the beat, or you're changing you're moving to the beat, you're what else can I say? Or even aside from the music, if the instructor trainer is kind of the guiding force of your exercise, if there's 10 burpees and then there's stop and then do this and then run here, run that, or you're on for 30 seconds, you're off for 15 seconds, and you're waiting for that timer, that's where your concentration is. And also, of course, your form, or maybe that's hitting the choreography the right way. However, the point of Pilates, and I think a little yoga too, but for Pilates specifically, is that you're actually, like I said before, focusing on the movement and noticing how your body feels. The instructor's guiding you through the exercises. They're not really doing so in a forceful or strongly assertive way, because the point is to focus on how your body feels and be present in your mind. So I hope that made sense. That was like a really out of the box example. And maybe it doesn't have to be soothing music. If music might soothe you in different ways, but you're not necessarily looking for a specific beat to be on, to hit that rep, to hit that move, to hit whatever it is. Okay, so after that, we have centering. Actually, sorry, control. So you have control throughout a Pilates, any Pilates exercise, and then a class. So all physical motion must be controlled by the mind. I kind of said that before. You're being mindful of how your body's moving. And yeah, and then also prevents injury the more you're in control. So, I mean, a lot of times if you're young and you maybe don't have any injuries, or not just if you're young, if you don't have any injuries or things to look for, red flags in your body, and you're trying a new format, whether it's HIIT or, you know, cycling, body pump, etc., you might move a certain way, and you actually never moved that way before, or open up something, do a stretch, do an exercise, and it may not feel right. But the point is that with Pilates, everything's mindful, and there is a demonstration behind actually going through the reps, going through the movement, so you're preventing injury. And there's, of course, a restorative part of it. We're not necessarily lifting our squat weight, which is like 2 large plates and 2 medium plates. It's not happening. We're not strength training or doing body pump. Okay, so centering. So we go back to powerhouse. I talked about powerhouse, which is below the navel. So hips, the quads, the glutes, etc. Yeah, so abdomen, and then also the abdomen, the lower back is part of it too. So abdomen, below the navel, and then the lower back. I saw my dad and my cat just walk by. Okay. So this is part of centering again, the powerhouse. So the place on the human body, it's the place on the human body from which all motion originates and then proceeds to perform extremities. So exercises, etc. It's all coming from the powerhouse again, which is this area right here. Well, here. So, and these muscles support the spine, internal organs, and posture, which I'm not really doing a good posture right now. Yes, and then the focus is on strengthening the powerhouse to stabilize the torso, the whole torso, and then allow one to strengthen and lengthen the body through exercises. And then there's also the ability to, while you work on this powerhouse and you focus on the movements that you're doing with the powerhouse, maintain a fluidity of movement while you move smoothly and evenly through exercises, extensions. You're controlled, flowing movement. You're not, again, just every format has a different purpose, but you're not having dynamic, jerky, or rush movements like you might do in dance or anything like that, or anything that you're lifting. Dance is very dynamic, so especially dance fitness. So, but that's not what we're doing here. Precision. So every movement has a purpose and should be executed with control. Unless, yeah, like, it's definitely important that, you know, if you're doing something improperly, hopefully someone's able to correct that too. And that you listen to the instructor, to the instructions. Maybe you're looking at something online, that's fine too. And that you're able to follow them pretty much exactly to how it should be performed. And you become familiar with each movement through repetition. The exercises become natural feeling and not as awkward. So you might be doing for a lot of in between exercises or phrases and sets in a Pilates class. You might come back to, oh my gosh, to your C curve here. You might come back here. Or you might do multiple hip bridges throughout. Or of course, you know, you're always going to come back to your child's pose here. So those exercises should eventually become easier through, or more familiar, not necessarily easier, more familiar through repetition and should feel more natural. Okay, so the breathing, which is great. That's all part of the stress relief too. So you breathe, so just how to really just a little how to breathe. So in terms of breathing, you know, most people know this, but you're going to breathe in through the nose and then out through the mouth. And you want to completely inflate your lungs, forcefully exhale all air out of lungs as you are wringing out every drop of water from a wet cloth. So you do this as you're going into exercises, and that's part of what the instructor does and leads you in. Or you might be in a position doing a repetition of exercises, and while you do those 10 reps, for example, you are using your breath to help you stabilize the powerhouse, stabilize the core, and continue working on that exercise. So an example here, back to the C. So if you are actually on your back, sorry, and you have your legs up straight, so you might do an exercise to strengthen the powerhouse, strengthen your core, where you come up and you pump the arms. I mean, I think maybe almost every Pilates class has this at one point. So if you do 10 repetitions, you don't want to stay here and hold your breath the whole time, or just keep trying to breathe in and out the whole time. What you want to do is inhale 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4. All right, that was just like a little mini example. But the key is that you want to make sure you're actually breathing in through the nose and then out through the mouth. And while you're doing that, you're still focusing on the movement itself. So are you feeling your core engaged? Is it starting to get hurt a little bit? Which means a good sore. Is your neck straining? Because that should not be what's happening. You should be using your core, not your neck. So if so, do you want to bring up your chest a little bit more? So that's what I kind of mean by focusing on your body, listening to your body, being mindful of your body, rather than just saying, okay, I got to get through these 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, etc. Or just listening to the beat of the music. All right. And then the benefits of breathing throughout these exercises also include oxygenating blood, eliminating impurities, and breathing in preparation for movement, and exhaling while performing movement makes the movement more effective for the body to tone, sculpt, etc., gain muscle strength. So another important concept is articulation. So it is the act of moving a joint. So in Pilates specifically, it's articulation of the spine. So placing of the spine between each vertebrae of the spine one at a time as one performs the roll up. So a really easy example would be a hip bridge, which I think I've shown this before in another video, and I know it's very common, but just show it one more time. There's my cat. All right. So each vertebrae at a time will roll up. I'm just gonna carry my shirt here. And articulation. So at the top of the spine, I'm leading with the top of the spine, and slowly each vertebrae lowers to the ground. And then to go back up, I'm going towards my pelvis, leading with the pelvis and the hips, and then going up, and then coming out. All right. So yeah, and honestly, like it's even helpful if you want to like feel your back, and also it can be, what was I gonna say? Not just a hip bridge, and anything you're gonna do. If you're gonna contract downwards, it can be a stretch. It doesn't even have to be in Pilates. It's always helpful to be a little mindful and think about it, your spine, building up each vertebrae at a time. Back to standing or back to the floor in supine, which supine is laying face up. All right. So flexibility, which I know is an interesting area for a lot of people. So yeah, there are some benefits to Pilates and flexibility. So it's flexibility, the definition of it is the ability to move a joint through the full range of motion without discomfort or pain. Not necessarily hyperextension or getting, not even, flexibility in terms of splits and straddles is not, that's a benefit that dancers can have for strengthening their muscles in their legs and their core from Pilates, for example. But that doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. Flexibility can mean while you're stretching after runs or after exercise, any type of exercise, and let's say you're opening up your hip flexor or your, which I can show you here, anything here or here. So those are basic things where that can help alleviate with repetition any pain or discomfort and help strengthen the muscles, stretch out the muscles, and prevent injury. Yeah, and again, the full range of motion. So lengthening, the act of stretching or strengthening without strain or pain. Main focus of Pilates. I kind of just described that actually with flexibility, but it doesn't necessarily always have to be in the eyes of flexibility and lengthening. So lengthening can also mean in terms of having the core strength, the core stability in the powerhouse to fully extend your legs, or that you have the muscles in your legs to fully extend into a V, which I can show you. So obviously you want to start with an extension like this. And you know, this might be a starting place for some people. And a V, that might not be exactly in the cards yet, if maybe you don't have any background in flexibility, Pilates, or really stretching at all. If you don't have any stretching experience or you haven't really done that. But again, so I'm using my quads here and of course my abs to be able to strengthen the V, to lengthen, and then come in and contract, and lengthen and contract. But again, so there's a lot of different exercises in Pilates. You can even use how you come out here into bird and come out. So you're lengthening in there too. There's a lot of different ways you might lengthen. You can also lengthen on the side here, or you might come down on your knees. So again, the more that you actually do the exercises, whether that's starting in the bent knees or starting with your knees down, you'll be able to work up the strength in your body, powerhouse and down, to be able to actually lengthen and then achieve a greater amount of strength and muscle tone. That's the goal. So momentum. Yeah, so the force in which a movement is performed in a controlled manner. So again, you don't, if it's new to you, if you haven't lengthened all your V all the way, you might be trying it out. It might kind of come out in a quick, you might try to push your legs out and you might not have the strength to do that. So, and that's okay. Like obviously that's what you work on to be able to do that. But the point is, the slower you do it, the better you'll be able to strengthen the quality of the movement and have momentum to hold, not only just, get to that position, but actually hold it and really hold the lengthening of whatever body part, your legs, etc. Okay, so navel to spine. So it is a great concept. So it's basically the physical act of engaging the powerhouse, our main area that we talked about, by pulling the abdominal area into the spine. So you can kind of see this a little bit in cat-cow, which I'll just demonstrate. So the navel is here. Remember your belly button. And you're bringing it into the spine. And then stretching out into the spine. So you can also do that in a contraction. You might see this in dance, you might see this in stretch, in any physical activity, any fitness, where you come in, you come out, kind of warming up that torso and upper body. So that's really important concept too that you'll see throughout, not just Pilates, but yoga too. Yes, okay, another cool thing is the Pilates stance, where your feet are in a V position. Heels together, legs squeezing from the heels to the inner thighs. If you're not familiar with dance, that's basically, without maybe the actual turning out of the feet and the flexibility of the feet, the V position with what I just described is a first position, where many movements originate from and start. Essential part of dance, ballet specifically. So again, it's all about engaging and squeezing your legs from the heels and the upper inner thighs, and then also keeping your, I'll demonstrate it. All right. So if you're in the V, it doesn't have to be very wide. I do have the ballet training, so maybe it is a little wider, but it can be as wide as this. Here. So your V, squeezing the legs into the heels, and then your hips are in line with your shoulders. Your pelvis is not tucked under, it's just straight into the ground. And then you might do exercises coming up, coming down, coming up, coming down, working on those calves, working on the upper inner thighs. So you might do some exercises like that. But again, just another thing to be mindful of. And your posture, you're standing tall. You can also lie down in this position too, which you'll probably see. All right. So 2 other great things, scooping and softening. So scooping is the act of pulling your navel down to the spine to create a concave or scoop shape in the belly. Yes, so it's similar to the cat-cow that I did. Yeah. And then softening is keeping the knees and arms straight without locking out of the joint. So if you think of, well, if you're hyperextended, I will say it's really important because it's very easy to actually lock out. But that can be arms or legs. So you're kind of, for example, even if you're doing a squat, and that's not necessarily Pilates, and then you kind of come up. So if I'm doing a squat, then I come up, I'm now locking my hips forward. Squat, hips forward, trying to get a little more momentum. No, so what I'm doing is I'm doing a squat and I'm using my muscles and I'm extending upwards and I'm not locking my hips forward. So that's an example. Again, so all these things are really important. They're going to help your movement and quality of movement produce, better results on your body and on your mind, for your mind. But again, so the whole mindfulness component is that you're thinking of these concepts while you're doing the movement. All right. So preparation of mind and body. Before beginning a Pilates series, whether it's a class or your own practice, some key components are, other than what I already described, anchoring. So instead of focusing on the body part in motion, so for example, isolating, which you would do a lot in a class like Zumba or WERQ or X, or even strength, or even like body pump or HIIT, you're focusing on a target area. So you might be doing crunches, you might be doing squats, You might, be isolating a certain move, a dance move, or you're doing bicep curls, anything. So you focus on, in Pilates, you focus on anchoring the body part, not in motion. So basically what that means is that if you're extending your leg, okay, so if I'm extending my leg, I'm not only thinking about the leg, I'm not just kicking it to seeing how high I can go. I'm thinking about the leg, I'm thinking about my abs, I'm thinking about my supporting leg anchoring me and my arms anchoring. So that I can do this in swift, fluid movement. Because otherwise I could wobble, I could fall over here, and I could fall to one side if I don't engage my core. So anchoring is really important. And I think that was a good explanation. And ultimately, just to further explain that, was that the body works simultaneously to a correct control manner. Meaning, so you're able to have the best form that you can, and not necessarily, again, isolate or work on a specific area of the body. You're working on all parts, all the whole operation of executing the movement and how everything works together. All right. So imprinting. So when you transition from a sitting position to a lying position, each vertebrae presses down into the mat like a chain goes around a gear. So kind of talk to a little bit about this with your spine. And using your vertebrae, but it's definitely important because mostly, you're on a mat and you're either laying down or in a sitting position with any Pilates exercises. There are, of course, like standing exercises that you'll do, but there's a huge majority where you're laying down and then sitting. So if you're transitioning from a sitting position to a lying position, for example, let's see. So if I'm going to transition to supine, which is lying on the floor, I'm going to slowly use my vertebrae to imprint into the ground, and then let my legs and my head follow. So I'm not going here down. That's not what we're doing. That might be choreography, but that's not part of it. This is not Pilates. We're in our position here, slowly lowering. And your vertebrae is going each vertebrae at a time imprinting. It's helpful terminology. You can kind of envision it with the word imprinting. Yes. Cervical nod, lengthening the neck. So, relaxing the shoulders, you would press the back of the neck to the mat when lying. When sitting or standing or stretching forward, you press out through the crown of the head. Bring chin closer to the chest. So, so you basically, if you think about any extension, stretching forward, like I just described, you're pressing out through the crown, and bringing the chin to the chest. So again, we're not in dance. We're not doing any cool movements here. So we're really engaging. We're being mindful of placement of the head, placement of the chin, relaxing the shoulders. So a good exercise I can show you is in a wide second position here. If you're going to work on a lateral and engaging your core using your abs, and you're going to do a lateral movement to the side. So you can start like this, or you can go like this. So my head is going to be, my shoulders are going to be down, the crown is going to be up, my chin is going to be down. And as you move side to side, I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm maintaining shoulders down, crown of the head up, and chin down. That you will feel it very quickly. So that's kind of lengthening the neck and the cervical nod. Because while you're doing that, focusing on the crown, the shoulders, the chin, you are lengthening the neck. All right, so listen to your body. One always says this, but definitely really important. Do not force what's unnatural, and if it hurts, don't do it. So kind of like I talked about with the lengthening, as you gain the strength, gain the muscles, and as things are new to you, you might want to hit that perfect V and extend your legs. But again, if you're trying to perform the movement, it's coming out jerky, or it hurts, anything like that, do not force it. That's not the goal. And again, strength training, I'll go back to that class, or even in dance, if you're working on splits and straddles, you're trying to get more flexible, you kind of have to push the limit within limits to kind of work the bicep, work the triceps, the shoulders, or get a little deeper in the split, stretch your hamstrings. But this is not the purpose of Pilates. So that will come with time, whatever the exercise is and the target area is. The whole. So view your body as a whole as you integrate all the muscles into one fluid movement. I've kind of emphasized this before, but I just kind of wanted to put a nice name to it. So again, it's a whole body experience, whole mind and body experience. Relaxation. So Pilates is not necessarily easy. That's not the purpose of feeling connected to your mind and body. And even yoga too, it's not supposed to be easy. It's not, I understand you're not lifting weights or you're not squatting 100 times, but there are the challenges. But the point is that if you try to relax and you focus on your body and how your body is responding to the movements and how it feels and how you make adjustments, you avoid tensing the muscles or becoming too rigid. You're relaxed. And there is a sense of relaxation. And again, that's where the concentration kind of comes in with the relaxation. You're concentrating so you can maintain the form, maintain the mind-body connection to perform the exercise. So there's the balance of both. All right. So after that, I think I've gone through a lot of good technique there, which is all about body awareness, and it's going to help you if you take Pilates, or even if like barre is very similar to Pilates. So we're offering barre in the fall. I'll be teaching one of the classes too. And there's a lot of Pilates elements in barre. There's also a lot of high intensity interval training elements in barre, as well as isolations of muscles in pulses, and ballet inspired movements that isolate the muscles to tone certain muscles. So it's not necessarily something you're going to see throughout an entire barre class, but there are those elements, there are those exercises, mostly the core stabilizing ones. Pilates, barre, yoga too. Really, you can use the knowledge that I talked about, body awareness, mind-body connection technique for Pilates in that as well. And any movement. I mean, if you're going to practice at home, if you have a few exercises you really like to do at home or work out with a friend, that's not maybe high intensity or dance music based, think about how your body's moving. Think about how your mind-body connection helps your movement, and how the quality of the movement is helping you gain muscle in your core and whatever muscle target areas in the best way possible, and not in a way that may be overextending or overdoing it to produce an ineffective result. So I'm just going to briefly talk about benefits of Pilates for dancers, but it also can apply to like runners or other athletes if you do other formats. So in terms of dancers, Pilates is a perfect way for dancers to protect themselves from injuries, which I kind of talked about before, the injuries due to muscle weakness or low range of motion. Again, if you don't have the strength and you push the limits a little bit, sometimes that's when injuries happen. Pilates focuses on fluid controlled motions, which is an ideal method for dancers, and many of the movements that are mirrored in classes. That's why Pilates goes so well with dance. And if you have grown up dancing and then later on in life kind of experience Pilates like myself, you will see that your dance instructors have integrated Pilates into your dance warm-ups so that you are able to gain strength and control in your flexibility training and your dance training that you need. So those who struggle with hypermobility and flexibility appreciate and benefit from Pilates because the motions and movements are meant to strengthen the muscle groups and to increase control, precision, and dancers won't injure themselves by overstretching or overextension. So kind of already what I said, but yeah. And applying the control and range of motion to their classes, to their dance practice, so that mistakes that may have been previously can be fixed is very helpful too. And that's again why you might have seen Pilates exercises with hip bridges, core work, or core and leg work, extensions, and in your dance classes in the warm-ups. Then of course working on your flexibility is great, and not just splits and straddles, in your hips, in everything you do. Yeah, and again, like, it can apply for runners too and other athletes if you're doing other movements, or you're doing a lot of repetitive movements. The greater control and hypermobility, flexibility you have, the better it's going to help you in your running or any other sports or fitness formats. So in terms of core stability, for a dancer, if you don't have any core stability, it will be hard to complete moves and gestures with control and precision. So for example, pirouettes, which is a turn, you might think that it might be easy to think that, with practice, that you can master holding the position and then holding the position in a turn and then 2 turns and 3 turns. However, it's really your core stability that's able to, one, hold you up there in a passe, for example, which I'll show you. Here's the passe. So my core is able to allow me to stay in this position, hold the position. And then if I add a turn, which I can't turn on a mat, but if I turn, the core is engaged even more. And then of course, the more core stability that you have, the more turns you can do. There's also spotting, and there's more to that, but again, it does come down to the core. And then yes, with Pilates, you're strengthening the core and back. As a dancer continues to take the exercise method, his or her core is strengthened, giving the dancer more control for leaps, turns, complicated combinations. And I kind of mentioned getting up and off the floor or moving swiftly from a high to a low. And that's obviously something that we do in our normal life. However, for a dancer, that's kind of in a version that's like 100 times faster and 100 times more intentional and complicated. Highs and lows, changing your weight up and down. Yeah, and then of course being able to understand how muscles are linked, directly affect each other, help a dancer focus on areas. Yes. So just a little disclaimer about Pilates in terms of the exercise and strengthening and what it does physically. So it does build long, lean muscles. So you're not necessarily creating bulk, which is usually from strength training. But Pilates increases and builds technique, and then again, allowing for that fluid, graceful movement, whether you're a dancer or not. But you have muscle connection, you have strength, you have coordination, you have flexibility, mobility. So that's just kind of mindful, because everyone has different goals that they might be, figuring out or that they have, and that Pilates will always help you, but just Pilates alone or Pilates related exercise is not going to contribute to bulk muscles. So you're going to have long, lean muscles. All right. All right, so I talked about the breath before. But yes, so I kind of went through that pumping arms exercise in the C, where I inhale 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4. That was just one example. But Pilates exercises will have a particular breathing pattern, based on the class, to improve the effectiveness of the exercise, to help to supply oxygen, remove waste products, and prevent you from holding your breath in. Yes. So that's also helps you biologically, helps you focus on the present in your mind and body. And stress management and relaxation. Pilates is widely used to reduce and cope with stress. A wellness coach named Elizabeth Scott wrote, "Exercise can decrease stress hormones like cortisol and increase endorphins," which I had said before, but your body's feel-good chemicals give you a good natural boost. However, other than that, Pilates helps improve your ability to respond to and cope with stress, enhancing your stress resilience. But the same way you're improving your ability to lengthen or contract or perform whichever exercise you're doing, which could be a new exercise for your body or an old exercise, but you're doing so, like I've talked about, in a mindful way in terms of your body and your mind, that helps you actually cope with stress in real life, so which is pretty cool. Yeah. And then also it improves your memory and brain training. So when performing automated forms of exercise, such as dancing or running, the body may be working, but the brain is not actively engaged. Exactly. So if I am doing Zumba and I'm doing this song, and I am listening the whole time to the beat, and my muscle memory is thinking about how I do this move on this lyric or on this count. I'm not necessarily, my brain is engaged with the music, but my brain is not engaged with my body and how it feels. So it is engaged with your body in terms of, what's the choreography? What is the movement? Is it a hit? Is it a hip? But I'm not, sorry. So I'm not thinking about how my body feels. You might have a second to think about it, but generally speaking, if you've ever, taken a class of that sort, you're not thinking about how you're feeling. Yes, so it also, so in Pilates, you're recruiting both your mind and body at the same time. I know I've said this a lot. When we learn a new exercise or modification, it challenges the brain to learn a new skill, keeping the mind engaged at all times. So you're really mindful of everything. I think there's a little bit of, I'm doing this exercise in this strength training class or in this X class, and I know that the purpose is that this is a core track. So I'm strengthening my core. But again, I don't really know exactly how my body is going to feel. But we know what the benefit is, generally speaking, in push-ups. So a little bit of a different mindset. And then biologically, in terms of the memory and the brain training, exercise pumps blood to the brain, which should make you think more clearly, increases the size of the hippocampus, part of the brain responsible for memory, and increases the connections between nerve cells in the brain. Improves your memory, helps you protect your brain against injury and disease. And also helps to treat depression and anxiety, Pilates. So in 2015, a report from Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists discusses the importance of exercise in the management of mental health conditions like depression, and exercise should be routinely included as an essential component in recovery from mental illness. Pilates may assist in treatment of depression and anxiety by offering an opportunity to socialize and changing the levels of chemicals in the brain, providing a distraction from negative thoughts, releasing stress, enhancing mindfulness to help create a self-care routine. So not that different forms of exercise can't help you achieve those goals, those outcomes, health outcomes, but Pilates is intentionally something that is mindful, that you use your breath and that you can reap benefits from. But somebody might try dance and for them, they know that's not something that they enjoy or that their body enjoys doing. But for me, for example, I know I love dance. I know that if I love Zumba and that works for me. That doesn't work for everybody. But again, Pilates, you're really going back to a little bit of a self-care routine and a little bit of a mindfulness routine. So it's really important for everybody. That's why it's so universal. Not that dance can be universal, but everybody has different interests and different ways that they move. So it's also been proven that Pilates helps treat insomnia, sharpens the mind, uncovers creative thinking, relieves stress, helps with chronic pain management, reduces negative emotions, helps fight addictions, and instill positive habits, lowers blood pressure, and improves cardiovascular health. So it's pretty cool. All right, I think I've gone through everything. I don't think there's much I missed, but I know this is a lot of talking, but I really wanted to kind of talk about the why and the how rather than just kind of leading you through everything, which was my intention, so that when you take a class or you perform exercises or do anything, you can think about what I talked about. You can think about the mind-body connection and all the different techniques that are part of Pilates, and be more mindful of how your body feels and moves, and what modifications or advancements you want to make to your Pilates practice. Yes, so I think that is it. Thank you for joining. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to message GW Campus Rec, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.